Hi, I'm Michael Dresser. I'm one of the UK's most unique sex and intimacy coaches for gay men. So, pleasure. Pleasure is something that most of us would probably say is a good thing, and probably something that most of us would also say we want more of. But for a lot of us, pleasure can often feel like something quite tricky to engage with or to get a handle on. And there's something that I think contributes to this, and it's what I want to talk about here. So I think that we need to change how we think about pleasure and how we refer to it. And specifically, I mean how we talk about it in terms of giving pleasure and receiving pleasure. So think about the times that you've said or heard somebody else say, I just want to give you pleasure. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, what's the problem with that? Well, essentially, it's that pleasure is not something that anybody can give you. It's actually an experience that happens in your own body, and it's different for everybody. And it can differ for you depending on the context. So let me give you an example. So you're at home and your lover comes up behind you and starts cuddling you and caressing you. And the chances are that you might find that quite a pleasurable experience. Now imagine that you're on a crowded bus and a complete stranger does the exact same thing. Probably not so pleasurable, right? So the same thing is happening to your body, but how you feel about it will be very different because the context is different. So when you experience the cuddle and the caress from your lover at home, it's not that they're giving you that pleasure, it's that your body and your brain are interpreting what they're doing as pleasurable. And in the same way that your body and your brain interpret the same thing from a complete stranger on a bus as being unpleasant. So I think that we need to stop thinking about pleasure in terms of giving pleasure to someone or receiving pleasure from them, and instead start thinking about experiencing pleasure. And I found for myself when I started reframing it that way that I became aware of actually just how much I was giving away the responsibility for my own pleasure to other people. Because if I'm expecting you to give me pleasure, it kind of implies that my own pleasure is something I don't have to take care of or tend to, which is really kind of nuts when you think about it. I mean, why would I want to leave it up to somebody else to make sure that I get the most enjoyment possible in my own body, especially because I'm the one who's feeling it in my own body? So what happened when I shifted how I started describing pleasure away from this idea of somebody else giving it to me is that I started noticing much more what things felt enjoyable in my own body, as opposed to the idea of what should feel enjoyable. And also what things didn't feel enjoyable, regardless of who was doing them to me or why. And I started to have more awareness of pleasure as something that was mine. So instead of expecting somebody else to magically know what I found pleasurable and provide it for me, I actually started asking for what I wanted, which meant that I started experiencing a lot more pleasure. I know, it's radical, right? I just needed to recognize that my experience of pleasure was internal to me and not reliant on somebody else. So context is not the only thing that contributes to an experience of pleasure. There's a couple of other things that also shape how enjoyable you might find something. And you can learn more by checking out my other videos here and also on my website. And like and subscribe for more tips and resources from me.